So let's talk a little bit about audience trust. Now, audience trust, again, is coming next quarter, later. You don't need yet to understand all the details. You don't have to talk to your customers about it and say probably don't yet, right? But it's a big concept, right? So I wanted to start seeding it with all of you now so it can be rolling around in the back of your head. And by the time it actually arrives next quarter, it won't really be a surprise, right? It even took me a fair amount of time to really understand what it was and actually start to appreciate it. So I think the earlier we start talking about audience trust at a high level, the smoother the kind of rollout and transition is going to be. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek into the concept. Also, who's heard about audience trust in passing? Yeah. How many people would say they know all about audience trust? Well, Ryan, I hope you do. And I hope you do too. Yeah, so it's something that you start to hear, right? It starts permeating the conversations in the kitchen, but nobody really knows all about it. So we want to start managing the conversation, getting everyone more educated. So what is audience trust? The basic concept is Universal Customer View, as it stands today, does brand level matching, right? Kraft gives us, we collect all of their data. We do first party matching across their own data sets to match their customer profiles, right? We figure out that Tomas is active on the website and in the app and on the loyalty program and he gets an app, right? That's what we're doing for Kraft. The problem with that is there are limits to how far first-party deterministic matching can go in reaching scale, right? And this can be drastically different for different businesses. Some businesses have lots and lots of first-party data, right? Like you're a Rue La La, you authenticate, everybody comes to your site, right? That's great, right? You can do a lot of matching there probably. If you're Kraft, you probably do a lot less matching, right? Because they don't authenticate nearly as many people who come to their website for recipes and to learn about cheese, right? So their business model is much less first data centric. There are natural limits to how much matching and audience profiling you can do for any business, even the ones that authenticate an awful lot of them, right? So as we've thought about how can we amplify that, how can we give the biggest audiences possible to our customers in a way that hasn't been done before, we've come across this idea of what we call ecosystem matching. What if our customers could contribute all of their match IDs into a cooperative system and benefit from the mutual matching that occurs to increase the number of matches across all of their visitors? That would have tremendous benefit because it would increase the overall match rates, help build up profiles, and then that supports the kind of activation that you can do at a much larger scale, right? Now it's easy to say, right? You can say, oh yeah, well there's a bunch of matching at home, it will just happen, right? It's really hard to do, right? Because there's privacy issues, there's security issues, it's hard technically. You have to have a system that scales for that. It's much harder to do in practice than it actually sounds like. But we believe it's totally worthwhile. So this is going to be our proprietary membership-based network. You can think of it as a cooperative network where our customers will contribute data into this cooperative and benefit from the matches that occur across that entire matching table or profile database. We think one of the differentiators, or several of the differentiators that we're going to be able to offer here is one, it's completely controlled by the brands and publishers that contribute, okay? They get to say who their data matches with. They get to contribute the data they want. Nobody sees each other's audiences. They only see the matching that occurs. If they decide they don't want to do it anymore, they can turn it off and withdraw very easily, right? It's going to be completely controlled, which is different from what you see in the rest of the marketplace. There are other systems and other media empires out there, like the Googles and Facebooks, that do a lot of matching. But they do all the matching to support their own media deployment within their own ecosystems, right? There's no portability, if you will, right? It's all to serve their own media sets. We want to have a portable ID system that is safe and controlled and a client can use anywhere to put them back in control and have ownership and control of their own data.
I like to think about it in like what clients are doing today. Josh brings this up a lot. People are spending millions of dollars a year on third-party data. This third-party data is not theirs, it's not verified, and it's bucketed into little audience segments like rocker dads or soccer moms or stuff like that. If you came to a client and said, hey, you can either keep spending millions of dollars on this third-party unverified data, or you can get paid to contribute your data to a part of this ecosystem, which solution are you going to choose? It's a pretty big no-brainer. But again, to Joe's point, it sounds great. you know, like conceptually, but putting it into practice, there's a lot of stuff to figure out. It's pretty difficult.
Yeah, people, I think marketers at this point have been kind of inundated and understand that their first-party data is better than anything they could buy off the shelf from third parties. You know, customers who are coming to your website, chances are they index much higher in terms of future business for you than someone who doesn't come to your website. And so this whole huge engagement and all that you're doing is great, but if you can't target those people, if you can't measure those people, if you can't optimize those people, if only 5% of them can you retarget across another device, then you can't do anything with it. So the first party data kind of, you know, discussion is stalled. And so this idea that you can go out and join a co-op like this, or a cooperative, and you can get your IDs and start filling in your match tables, that's what's going to really resonate. What I'm saying is the appetite's already there, it's just no one's paved the road for marketers to really truly use their first party data at scale.
So remember, there are data co-ops out in the world today, either in the direct response world or in the online world. This is not a data cooperative per se, this is a identification, an audience identification cooperative. Okay, so a good way that I find to explain is, say, imagine a world of Gap and Starwood, conveniently two of our very favorite customers. Now, Gap is able to, with UCB, match up a customer across these 3 channels. Starwood is able to use UCB, hopefully they will start soon, using these 3 channels to match up. So they've got these match IDs, they know it's Tomas across the, Gap knows it's Tomas across these, right?
Loyal. Very loyal.
I knew he was a Gap
Super
shopper.
loyal. He likes to buy khakis and then go stay at a hotel.
Every time he buys khakis.
So, treat yourself, right? So, you're worth it. But think about the number of matches and the quality of matching you could have if Gap had access not only to these 3 IDs, but all 6 IDs, and vice versa. The increase in matching rate and thus matched profiles across your customer or visitor base would be so much higher if you had access to more data and more matching IDs. This is what we propose to do. Now what's tricky, right, is that Gap really doesn't want to give its audience away to Starwood or show all of Tomas's data to Starwood and vice versa, right? Starwood doesn't need to know about his khakis, and Gap doesn't need to know about his love of the minibar, right? Or how he interacts with them. I'm not judging. So, we walk on.
You fill them back in with water like I did?
I can stop anytime. So,
With a khaki?
so if we are able to be the clearinghouse for all of these IDs and use all these matches to match absolutely, use all these IDs to match absolutely as many profiles as is humanly possible, given all the data in this ecosystem, then we can increase everyone's matching rate and thus reach rate. Right? We think that's very powerful. Now the key to this is that it's double blind. We're the clearinghouse, and we don't allow the data to be shared in ways that our clients don't want them to, right? And this is kind of fixing the age-old problem in our industry where you have to give away an audience to get an audience, and what really freaks people out, right? The way it actually would, in a sense, work is that the advertisers and publishers contribute those match keys, the 3 on the Gap side, the 3 on the Starwood side, right? We've got all of these. We match them up. The only thing we ever expose outside of our system is a fuse ID for Tomas, right? But that match rate is increased, so everybody wins. So the ability to bring together more fragments of Tomas together into one by everyone contributing their match keys is an extremely powerful concept. And being able to do it in a way that's safe, double blind, you're not giving away an audience, you're absolutely in control of which data is shared, who sees it, if you want to withdraw, so it's privacy compliant and secure. It's really a huge innovation.
So with the single fuse ID, how's the first party identifiers for all of the fragments that we have on Tomas in this scenario, or
Only within our system.
within our system?
Yeah, so you know, Gap would have to request, you know, some type of attribute information and then pull it back. And when they pull it back, they have very specific IDs for me, for Gap, in Gap's context. You know, it's not like the same fuse ID goes to Gap and to Starwood.
Okay.
They each have a unique ID for me. So they couldn't share outside of our system, like, you know, information about.
So like Gap knows Tomas as 1, 2, 3,
Right.
right? And Starwood knows him as 4, 5, 6. but we've got a master ID deep in our system
Right.
that's 789.
Would the,
So they can never host audience trust, try to even get together and say which one's to use.
Okay.
They don't know.
so when that's like built out, would the users on each side have the ability to delineate what type of data? So they'll actually go into the platform and say, this is out of the data dictionary, this type of data we're willing to share with.
Remember, it's IDs.
Yeah, so they
Oh,
would
so
contribute.
we're not getting there
besides
yet. I see what you're
IDs, they would
saying.
Contribute.
I see what you're saying, like, we're somewhat entertaining it, but we're not taking seriously yet the scenario of saying people who bought khakis start with
Right,
targeting
so-
against them. We're
so
not there yet,
We're talking about the cooperative concept of just increasing the number of matches.
right, so
Right.
the reason
So-
you want to
so
do this.
using-
So
Okay.
what they would see in Fuse, right, when they go in and say, hey, I've got way more match profiles than I did
Right.
before audience
He
trust.
just means it's not segment data, it's not
No.
behavior
But-
data.
So you took the next step,
Yeah.
smart guy. So conceptually, what you could also do is use audience trust to, and again,
Very
conceptually,
conceptually.
what you could do is construct private audience networks. What I've been talking about is the co-op. Everyone piles in as much data as possible. We ramp up the match rates as high as we can, right, based on more IDs. Great. But what if Gap Star would do a partnership and decided, you know what, I don't mind sharing the minibar and the pants information, right? Or my preferred example, different example is, imagine you're at Best Buy and you want to do a partnership with Samsung, right? So imagine that.
Right,
So it would be great for Best Buy to know if Tomas has already gone to Samsung.com to shop for big screen TVs. So by the time he gets to BestBuy.com, they can target him based on his Samsung behavior. Theoretically, if you did the right permissioning, that would actually be possible, because once you did the match for Tomas on both sides, you're going to have whatever, the viewing behavioral information from Samsung.com over here, and the targeting information for Best Buy over here. They could share those things in a private way,
but initially.
but not with anybody else, right? They could decide we're going to share with each other these specific attributes.
Oh, okay, so that's kind of how I thought. That's kind of how I thought it grew. But
So,
not, but realistically, it's just the IDs.
To start with the co-op,
Right.
the standard co-op concept.
What we're saying
now.
is it's going to increase the accuracy of your measurement. So if you have a 10% match rate that you're giving to your attribution solution, now you're going to have 50% match rate. The attribution can get even better. Now they can get like really drilled down.
Mhm.
So it increases the accuracy of your measurement, and then it increases the scale of your activation. So rather, if you're just trying to target people who checked out khakis in store, with retargeting on the desktop, with more matching, you're going to have more of a pool to retarget off of. So increase the scale for activation and accuracy for measurement.
But the private audience network concept has been floated,
Has been done.
and we're exploring it. But we think that's a future state. It would also, a corollary to that would be, say you're one of our very large agency partners. Say Dentsu Aegis says, you know what, we want to do a private audience network across all of our clients, right? We could, think about doing the same thing to support them. That way they develop kind of this private offering, right, that enhances their value to everyone in that network. So there's some very cool concepts out there that all rely on this ability to achieve maximum scale by cooperatively sharing matching. Does that make sense? It's a really funky concept. This is why we're starting early with this. And again, you do not talk to your customers about this. This is purely for our own information and to start digesting it, right, well in advance. Todd Shaner and thus me are big fans of kind of the concentric circles here, right? So again, think about the limitations of what a single brand can do, even under the best of circumstances with UCV, right? I've got my authenticated users, I've got people that registered at one time, and then I've got all the ones that never registered. There's a physical limit to how much matching even our biggest customers will do. And this is a situation where scale matters. If you can't get a big enough match rate and enough customers or profiles matched, it's not going to make a big enough difference to your marketing, right? It's not going to provide an incremental lift, especially in return on investment, right? So this was born out of. We see the value in the matching, but how do you amplify that audience matching beyond the limits of a brand's own capability? And we think if we have enough of a cooperative set of data going in our system, we can massively expand that universe of potential matches, right? So, this is one brand's potential matching, great. if they rely on our total co-op, which has, you know, the mass of a lot of our clients behind it, they can amplify their audience matching this much. And then if we add in things like getting publishers involved, and even having third-party data providers, like some of the CRM onboarders involved in providing data as well as offering data enhancement, you have another one, right, in the universe that we're able to access. And that gets very interesting because we become, well, for what marketing purposes, we would at least say we're one of the very, very few companies in the world outside of Google and Facebook that have that kind of scale. But we have that kind of scale in an independent publisher and advertiser controlled system.